Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of data analysis, but with a twist.
A twist.
Yeah. We're going to be following the career journey of data analyst Dorothee. We have her blog post about it and even a YouTube live session she did.
Oh, cool. So we'll get to see how the field's changed over time.
Yeah.
And maybe get some tips from her experience.
Absolutely. From the early days of paper surveys to the age of AI and everything in between, it's amazing what we can learn from someone who's been in the trenches, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's always more insightful than just reading a textbook.
Exactly. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? Dorothee's data journey began back in grad school.
Okay, grad school. Was she already focused on data analysis back then?
She was, and she really honed in on something that's so easy to overlook when you're starting out.
What's that?
Understanding how the way data is recorded impacts its analysis. It's the foundation, but it's easy to jump right into the analysis without thinking about it.
Right, because you're eager to get to the results.
Yeah.
So how did Dorothee learn that lesson?
She actually uses a really relatable example in her blog post, Paper versus Electronic Surveys. She was working with both.
Ah, I see. Two very different ways of collecting data.
Exactly. And she realized that the method of recording dictated how she had to approach different question types, like multiple choice versus open-ended responses.
Yeah, makes sense. You can't analyze a paragraph of text the same way you'd analyze a simple yes or no answer.
Precisely. It's like you need the right tools for the job, and understanding the data's origin is like choosing the right tool.
I like that analogy. So how did this foundational knowledge help her as she moved forward in her career?
Well, next, she went into the world of market research, worked for a company, did all sorts of projects, brand research, employee satisfaction surveys.
It sounds like a pretty diverse range of projects.
It was. But the core principles of, cleaning the data, summarizing it, and then extracting those insights, those remained consistent.
That's a good point. The underlying skills are transferable even if the subject matter changes. So what came after market research?
A big leap. Dorothee moved into the world of online video platforms.
Wow, quite a change. What kind of data was she working with there?
Website and app data. This is where she started using Google Analytics, or GA, to track user behavior and how well those marketing campaigns were performing.
GA, a classic.
Yeah.
But I imagine it's not just about installing it and letting it run, right?
You got it. Dorothee had to first define what she actually wanted to track and how to measure it all.
Okay, so she had to set up GA to collect the right data. How'd she go about that?
She used something called the AARRR model. Have you heard of it?
The AARR model. Rings a bell. Remind me what that stands for.
Acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue.
Right. It's a way of mapping out the customer journey, basically.
Exactly. By aligning her tracking with this model, Dorothee could really see how users were interacting with the platform, from their first visit to, becoming loyal fans who tell their friends.
Super smart. It gives you a framework to make sense of all that data.
It's like, instead of just seeing a jumble of numbers, you see a story unfolding. And then you can use that story to make the platform better.
So, for example, if she saw users dropping off after signing up.
Exactly. That might mean the onboarding process needs some work, or the platform's value isn't clear enough.
Makes sense. But I'm guessing there was more to the story than just GA data.
You're good at this. Dorothee ran into a classic problem. You know how you need to combine data from multiple sources to get the full picture?
Oh, yeah. It's like trying to understand a company's finances by only looking at sales figures.
Perfect analogy. You're missing crucial pieces of information.
So how did Dorothee overcome this challenge of combining data from different sources?
She found a tool called Kenami, which, by the way, is pronounced name.
Name. Interesting. What's special about Kenami?
It's super user-friendly. You can merge and clean data without needing to know any coding. A huge time saver.
That's fantastic, especially for people who might not be programming experts. So she could pull data from GA, blend it with internal data, and clean it all up.
All within Kenami. Then she'd visualize the results in Looker Studio, creating those insightful charts and graphs, like turning chaos into order.
I love it. So she was able to connect the dots and see the bigger picture.
Exactly. And it really highlights that data analysis is about more than just the technical stuff. It's about understanding the why behind the data, the context.
That's a great point and something we can all learn from. But before we dive deeper into that idea, I'm curious, what advice does Dorothee have for those just starting out in data analysis?
Oh, she has some great tips.
Well, for beginners, she actually recommends starting with something really simple.
Simpler than Kenami.
Way simpler. Good old Excel.
Excel. Really? I mean, it seems kind of basic compared to all these fancy tools.
I know, right? But Dorothee makes a good point. Those basic Excel functions, like filtering and sorting, creating pivot tables,
Yeah.
they help you understand the core concepts of how to work with data.
It's like the building blocks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to learn the alphabet before you can write a novel. And once you've grasped those concepts in Excel, you'll see how they apply to more advanced tools.
So start simple, but then what? What's the next piece of advice?
Preparation.
Preparation.
Yeah, she's really adamant about this. Don't just dive into the data without knowing what you're looking for. Otherwise, you'll end up with what she calls...
Useless charts and graphs.
That's the one.
Yeah.
The easy to get carried away with making things look pretty, but...
But if they don't answer a specific question...
They're pointless.
Yeah.
Like, what are you actually trying to learn from this data? What decisions need to be made based on what you find?
So step one, understand the context.
Right. What's the business problem you're trying to solve? What are the key metrics? Are there any limitations with the data you need to be aware of?
Thinking about all that before you even open up a spreadsheet.
It's especially important now with AI becoming more prominent in data analysis. Dorothee talks about this too.
AI. So is she saying AI is going to replace data analysts altogether?
Not quite. She sees AI as a tool. Like, it can automate those repetitive tasks, like cleaning data.
That does sound helpful.
Right. But, and this is a big but.
AI can't do everything.
Exactly. We still need humans to interpret the results, spot those patterns that an algorithm might miss, make those judgment calls.
Okay, so AI is like a really smart assistant.
A very helpful assistant, but you still need to be the one in charge, setting the goals and making sure the work is actually meaningful.
Like Dorothee with Google Analytics.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
GA can track all that user behavior automatically, but it was Dorothee's expertise that allowed her to make sense of it all, connected to the platform's goals.
And even with all those fancy tools, she still had to combine data from different sources. That can-I-me experience really comes in handy there.
Sure. It highlights an important skill for data analysts, being able to wrangle messy data from different places and turn it into something usable. It's like
untangling a giant knot.
Yeah, kind of. You've got all these separate pieces, and you need to figure out how they fit together to tell a coherent story.
And like a detective piecing together clues, you might have witness statements, forensic evidence, security footage.
And none of them are conclusive on their own,
Well,
but
how do you combine them?
you start to see the full picture. And that's what Dorothee did. Combining GA data with the internal data gave her those insights she wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
It's not just about crunching numbers then. It's about being a storyteller, using those numbers to create a narrative that drives action.
Absolutely. But before we move on to what Dorothee's doing now and some of her bigger picture thoughts on the field, let's take a step back for a second.
Okay, where are we going with this?
I think it's interesting to think about how data analysis has become so much more accessible. Like, it used to be something only big companies with, those huge data science teams could do.
It was like an exclusive club.
Yeah, but now, individuals, small businesses, nonprofits, they can all get in on the action.
It's like everyone has a superpower now. They can uncover insights, make better decisions.
Right, and you can even challenge those old ways of thinking just by using data.
We see it happening already in like healthcare, where data is helping to personalize treatments or even identify disease patterns.
It's changing everything. Like in business, think about marketing, sales, product development.
Customer service too. Companies can understand their customers so much better.
They can make their products better, streamline everything.
Dorothee saw this firsthand, right? When she shifted from market research to that online video platform.
Exactly. She had to learn new tools, adapt her skills to a whole new context.
It shows just how versatile data analysis is. You can use it in any industry.
And as more people learn these skills, the impact just keeps growing.
We can solve social problems, improve public services.
We can even tackle global challenges like climate change. It's pretty exciting to think about.
But like with any powerful tool, there's always the risk of misuse, right?
Right. Dorothee talks about this too. You can't just rely blindly on the data. You have to think about the human element.
The data can tell you what's happening, but not always why it's happening.
Exactly. So you have to interpret it, put it in context, make sure you're using it ethically.
Data for good, not data for evil.
Exactly. It all goes back to understanding the problem you're trying to solve. It's not about the reports. It's about taking action, making a positive impact.
And that's what Dorothee did throughout her whole career. Whether it was paper surveys or website traffic, she always focused on using data to answer those important questions.
She approached it with curiosity, and a real sense of purpose.
It's inspiring for anyone who wants to get into data analysis. You don't just need the technical skills, you need that mindset.
Curiosity, that drive to make a difference.
So, as you continue on your own data analysis journey, remember those key takeaways. Start simple, don't be afraid to learn new things, and keep asking those why questions.
And use your skills for good. Make the world a better place.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive into Dorothee's career and the world of data analysis as a whole. We hope you've learned a lot, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
嗨，大家好，我是 Dorothee。那就如同大家所知，这是由 AI 产生的双人英文 Podcast。其中呢，它有提到一个软体，那这个软体的名字叫做 KNIME。不过呢 ，AI 总是发音不太标准，它总是发成 KNIME 或是 name， 就我试了几次都是这样。那这个呢 KNIME 这个软体呢，正确它应该念成 nine。希望呢这样可以帮助大家更清楚的知道怎么念哦。